Hey Rosebuds, welcome to the Rose Garden. I'm your host, Nyeri Rose. Hey Rosebuds, we are back with a new episode. That is right, we are back. I know it's been some time, but let's get right into it, okay? Today's episode is conversations about control. And I know control and talking about it is a broad topic, but I'm just going to keep it as short as possible and really just talk about our control or our ability or inability, for that matter, to control aspects in life. All right. I don't know about you guys, but June has been throwing hands. Okay. Like June has really been a challenging yet blessed month. Okay. We will not complain too much because we still have breath in this body. All right. But I don't know if it's because we are approaching a new month of July. I don't know if it's because it's getting hotter outside, or maybe it's not hot where you are, but life has been lifing right now. So let's just talk about it. First thing I want to speak on is just the fact that for me, I don't know about y'all, but like I said, things have been going on and I feel like it's been a testament of my faith. I feel like my faith has been tried in so many different scenarios, and it was a reflective point for me because I really had to sit down and sit back and evaluate the way that I try to handle or control situations. Now, I'm the type of person who wants full control, especially if it means that I'm going to reap the benefits, if that makes sense. So I want to have control over a situation if I deem it to be beneficial or in my favor. I do not want to control a situation or control others in situations where it's going to put me at fault or I'm going to be the one to blame, if that makes sense. So when it comes to my ability to control or manage any type of thing, I'm always processing, okay, how is this going to benefit me? What do I need to do to at least enhance my character, to make myself feel better, look better? All right. What if it's a financial control? Is there any financial gain from me trying to control any aspect or situation in my life? And if not, then I don't want no parts of it. But that's not how life works, right? That is not how life works. And you are going to be tested and tried, if not already, with so many different things that even when you try to control a situation, it's pretty much out of your hands. Like even recording this podcast, I had to be present for this. Like this was difficult to do because you have so much that happens in life. And sometimes you have to step back and just breathe a little bit because it's just like, whoa, I have a podcast. I have to tell the people something. You know, I'm so used to being able to just go disappear and handle my business and then come back. But as I'm growing with this podcast, I'm learning two big words right now, all right? And that is consistency and discipline. And in order to be consistent, no matter what the obstacle is or the challenge, you have to keep going. You have to keep applying yourself. You got to keep applying pressure on anything that you do. And in that, you have some control because you're showing up. It doesn't matter what it's going to look like because we go to work every day, but you never know what you're going to get, especially if you're in retail. My first job was in retail. So shout out to all the people who are working in retail because that's a difficult job to do. Yes, you are going to the same place doing the same things, but there are so many variables that change within that. And so it's up to you to decide or at least control how you show up in those spaces, how you want to show up at work, what you decide to do. Yes, we have some control over maybe what we wear, what we want to drive, what we want to eat. All right. But at the end of the day, when it comes to life and real life situations, you are going to realize really fast how limited your control is. All right, especially for those people who feel like they can manipulate themselves into certain situations, which I feel like, if maybe I'm speaking for myself, there have been times where maybe I've been a little bit manipulative in trying to control people or having this expectation. Like for instance, I was at the store and my husband said, here's a bag of change, give it to this homeless man. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. And now this homeless man, he started walking away. And instantly I said, okay, he's walking away. I don't even want to give him the change. But it wasn't on me. I decided to not try to control the situation. If someone told me to go do something, then I said to myself, okay, let me go do it. So I'm following the man, I'm following him around, and I finally caught up to him, and it was a journey. And so I said, here, my husband said you needed this change. And so he asked me, is this a bag of weed? Now, I will say that kind of irritated me just a little. So I was like, you're welcome. And I've been reflecting on that because I feel like that was kind of a snooty comment on my behalf. And so to that homeless man, no, it wasn't weed, it was change. But I was instantly waiting for a thank you. I was reflecting on that situation. And even by me saying you're welcome, it's ingenuine. Like trying to basically do things for people and then expect them to appreciate or validate you is manipulative. And you cannot control that. Like you cannot do things for people and then control however they perceive you afterwards or however the relationship goes afterwards. And that's like, for instance, with borrowing money and friendships. All the time you see it, or even if it's a family member, you loan out $20, oh man, I'm gonna pay you back. Now it's looking like people are borrowing loads of money, okay? Like I talked to somebody and they helped somebody with their rent and got the I'll pay you back, but it never happened. And so we loan and extend ourselves out in so many different ways. And I feel like you lose the blessing when you aren't immediately gratified. Like when you don't get that immediate payback or that immediate, where's the blessing, I did this for that person, and you're anticipating it, like it makes it harder for the blessing to come back to you. It's just like karma. It's the same thing as karma. What you give or what you put out, it does come back to you, and you never know the magnitude in which it comes back. But that's how we have to learn how to be patient. Patient with others, patient with our finances, patient with the challenges that we face on a daily basis, and not so much try to control certain things that happen, because really and truly, we have no say-so on the matter. Like, for instance, recently, I was in one of my second major car accidents, and the first one was very traumatic, and I'll speak on it a little later. But I was just in a car accident, and it was kind of just like, it doesn't matter what you try to do to prevent the situation from happening. Once something is in motion, you just hope that the Most High is with you and covering you, okay? Because car accidents are no joke. They are no joke. They are scary, all right? And they can end your life. And I found myself trying to control the situation and trying so hard not to crash. But sometimes crashing is inevitable. Like sometimes you are going to just hit, like you're just gonna have to hit something in order for the lesson to reveal itself, in order for the Most High to speak to you. And maybe the lesson is slow down. Really and truly, you might not even be speeding. I was not speeding, but I felt like in that moment the lesson was sometimes you need to slow down. Literally, the ticket that I got, it said following too close. And so that told me I need to take a step back from following too close. Whether it's following too close to people, whether it's following too close in situations that I don't need to be in, whether it's following too close to the news that I'm engaging in, social media accounts you following too closely to. I took that as a lesson, and I ran with it. I said, you know what? Because it was devastating. Like seeing your car, my car was completely totaled, and seeing it and just being okay, not seeing any blood, not having any scratches, and coming up out of that alive, and the other person being okay, them not having any scratches, and being able to just stand on my 2 feet and breathe the good air that we breathe and say I'm okay. I really just felt like in that situation, I lost control. I had no control. But even in the midst of not having control, I still saw that there was a blessing behind it. And so I just wanted to talk about it because I feel like as I'm driving around and as I'm looking at people, I read an article and it said that we are in the most depressive state. People are so depressed right now. It's almost as though we are living in the Great Depression, if not already, because we all are just collectively having this sense of sadness, having this fear of not knowing the next steps. And another thing about control is when you spend too much time thinking about the future and reflecting too much on the past, where is the present? How are you going to figure out your future steps if you're not focused on the right now and what's in front of you? I had to learn how to stop creating scenarios that haven't even happened. And I realized that was me trying to control my future. And I feel like it's kind of difficult not to, because when you have goals that you want for yourself and you have things that you want to accomplish, of course you have to see a little bit down the line. You have to kind of visualize that and imagine it. And a big word that everyone is using is manifesting. I mean, I have a manifestation board, but not all things can be controlled and confined to just one thing. There are opportunities out there for all of us that we can reach, but we can't pinpoint how we're going to get there. You hear about stories where people were late to interviews and got the job just on faith. And I feel like something that we need to do in this depressive state, because being depressed, and I'm not a doctor or a therapist, but I just feel spiritually, being depressed is your body telling you that something needs to change. If there hasn't been a change that has already happened in your life, your body tells you that there is something that needs to change or is changing. And then on the other side of that, it's like you're pushing against what needs to happen. And that could just be with anything. Specifically, I know for me, one of the things that I wanted to change is body image, my weight, like how I eat, my health, diet. That needed to change. And because I wasn't doing anything about it, I knew that I needed to change something about myself. I wasn't doing anything about it. So just an umbrella term for that was depression for me. And you can see it in the way that we engage and interact with one another. You can see whether or not somebody's sad. More than anything, I'm the type of person who likes to hide my sadness or hide that I'm depressed, because I don't want to transfer that energy onto anybody. I feel like it's not fair for me to go out into the world and be angry or bitter or whatever the case to someone else who has nothing to do with what's happening to me. It's for me to figure out what's going on in my life. And then based on whatever's going on in my life, I need to do my research and then figure out what necessary steps do I need to take to come out of whatever I'm feeling. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. A lot of people don't know how to navigate that and figure out, I do not like the way I feel right now. Maybe I don't like the way I look. Maybe I don't like the way I act. I don't like my behavior in certain situations. So what can I do to fix it? And that's why I'm grateful that, more podcasts are popping up and we are talking about it, and we're talking about mental health. And it's not 100% perfect, but I feel like with a sense of urgency, we are coming together and trying to pick up the pieces, because we do want out of it. Look at our world right now. Like, the world is insane. The world is crazy. Like, we just came out of COVID. We're trying to reach some sort of normalcy, and we can't, because we have all these things distracting us. And that's why I'm wanting to talk about control, because we have all these things that we have no control over, yet they are in our daily news feed. Everything that we see that we have no control over, it's affecting us, and it's scary and it's crazy because it's all this information that we have access to, and really and truly what we want is just to be happy. But it's so hard to get to a sense of happiness or a state of happiness sometimes when you're just living and trying to get through the day. One of the things that I see that I feel like is a major distraction right now, but I'm gonna talk about it. There was a submarine implosion that happened a few days ago, and it killed about 5 billionaires. And it's interesting because any story that you hear, and I like to discern how I feel about it, and then I go to the comments, especially if it's on Instagram or YouTube, whatever. I go straight to the comments because I'm just trying to take a census. Like, I want to see what everybody else has to say. And at least with this submarine incident, I found that most people were laughing and they find it funny. And I can see why, because you have 5 people who have access to a lot of money, and they use their access to take this trip that cost a lot of money, and they thought maybe it would be a fun adventure, but they did not see it through. And so many people just say that it's ignorant on their behalf, because how are you going to have so much money and make such a, I guess, stupid, for a lack of a better word, decision? How are you going to make this decision that cost you your life? And so some people have so much control, maybe over their money or their access or their privilege. They have so much control that when you lose control, you might lose your life. That might be the end all be all. You had so much access, right? You have so much experience with all these different things at a fast rate, because I feel like some of the people who were in that submarine were of a young age. At least 1 or 2 people were under 30, if not 30, which is incredibly young. And I just feel like it's a tragedy, yes, but at some instance, they let go completely. They let go completely to where they said, we have so much control that when we lose control, who's to say what happened? Who's to say what happened? Who's to say the mindset you go through? Because I remember they were like doing, oh, they only have this much hours of oxygen until, they run out. And all this was happening. And simultaneously, I heard about a story of about 750 immigrants who died and they did not get help. Over somewhere near Europe, they were approaching the shoreline or whatever. I did not go into detail about the story because that's to be expected. We are glorifying and amplifying this one story, and then you have 750 people killed over 5, or 750 people who died over 5, and it's barely reported, aka distraction. And that's just to say, sometimes you don't have control. You don't have control in certain situations. And it's difficult because that's how we go through life. We use as much knowledge as we can to make the right decisions, but you never know what decision will cost you your life, because tomorrow's not promised. And so it's just a reminder to live every day with intention. Live every day with intention and a lesson on how you are going to improve. How are you going to be better than the person that you were yesterday? What changes or what are you going to do to make sure that if you did have a bad day, or if you did rub somebody the wrong way or say something that was not the best thing to say, aka how I felt about my engagement with the homeless person. Honestly and truly, I felt bad because I immediately expected a response. I immediately expected a thank you. And sometimes we feel like we are overshadowed and not seen and not heard. So we have all these expectations. But at some point, when do you just let go? You let go of your sense of control. Because sometimes that is how you will be blessed. That is how you will see the reward of any situation, when you just free yourself from it. I love this song. It's called Far by SZA. And in the very beginning, she has like a little skit where she's talking to a guru. I forget his name. I cannot recall. I'm about to look it up because I feel like it is important when you're on any platform and you mention somebody, you credit them. You have to talk about them or mention them, and just, it's a form of respect. So she basically has this intro where she talks to someone and she's talking about feeling rejected. And so in her feeling rejected, Sadhguru, so she's talking to him and she's like, I feel a rejection, a sense of rejection. And he basically says, when nobody wants you, that means that you're free. And I found that to be so incredible because it's true. When you have all these people connected to you, a part of them has control over you, because it's just like when you text somebody, you wait for that reply. Or if somebody asks you, hey, can you come over? You know, you feel either an obligation to go, or you can say no, but then that no, it lingers. And I was reading in the book that I shared, the chakra book, usually how I basically drafted my mind on my healing journey was to say no more, you know, to create boundaries. You have to create boundaries in order to get the respect. But I found more challenges saying no. And in that chakra book, it said, say yes to life, say yes to opportunities, say yes, even if you don't want to, right? Because when you say yes, sometimes it's a form of love, you know? And I feel like we're losing sight of love. And everyone talks about wanting unconditional love. But when you're only putting out conditional love, and when you are only controlling things and controlling people and controlling others, it makes life so much harder. If you're not teaching your children or teaching your young cousins or whoever that's around you, or maybe you have students, whatever, in life we are meant to just be leaders. I feel like we are leaders, we are creators, innovators, and we should be instilling lessons, right, on what things that you should control and have control over, and the things that you shouldn't. And you will get cues, all right, whether you pay attention to it or not, there will be cues, all right, on how you should handle certain situations and what you should have control over. And it's up to you to pay attention to those cues. And if you don't, there could be major consequences. Another thing that I just saw on social media, I saw a mother and a 14-year-old boy, which was her son. They were arrested for fatally shooting and killing a man. I don't know where this took place, but if you look it up, you'll find where the woman and the man were having an argument or a disagreement. And in the midst of arguing, of course, there were bystanders watching, but the man proceeded to start hitting and beating the woman. And so the mother tells her son, you know, go to the car, go sit in the car. And he went in the car, grabbed a weapon, came back to where she was getting attacked, and killed the man that she was having a dispute with. And I felt so many different emotions because, you know, you have a young man who was going out his way to not control well, maybe it is a sense of control, because he wanted to control the situation, and he felt like in order to protect his mother, he had to go get that weapon. And he felt like the only way, because maybe he couldn't physically help, he had to go get something to help her, although she just instructed him to sit in the car. And so, at least from the perspective between the dispute of the man and the woman, the man had told the woman, several times to at least maybe go away or don't start or whatever. And that's no excuse for her being attacked. But sometimes we have so much energy, and we want to control a situation, and we want to have the last say or have the last word. And I know a lot about that, because I always, at least recent, not too recent, because I'm learning how to get out of it, but there was a time in my life where I always had to have the last say. Especially if I was offended, I had to have some type of smart remark or comeback, because growing up, when people was roasting each other, and when Yo Mama jokes used to be popular, because Yo Mama jokes don't hit no more, but at least during that time, I did not know how to roast. I did not know how to clown people, okay? I would just be like, you making a joke? Like, are you being for real? Like, it took me a long time to even understand sarcasm, because that's not how I am. So I spent so many years trying to like one up people or have the last say and have control over it, that it kind of just started backfiring. And it was all this miscommunication, because I just wasn't articulating myself in a way that I needed to make sense. And so now it's kind of just like, when you say something or you give a directive, you have to make sure that it's specific. You have to be able to read a room and understand, okay, if I'm about to engage with somebody and it's negative, I'd rather not engage at all. I'd rather not engage at all, because you never know what can happen. Literally, the day after I had my car accident, I had to hop on a plane to go to my mother's, because she was helping me with another vehicle, because I still have work to go to. I still have bills that need to get paid. And that morning, I think it's 7 a.m. in the morning, I went to Walmart, and in the midst of about five minutes, I was standing in line, and a lady perceives that I cut her in line. So instead of it just being, I didn't cut you, I'm sorry that you felt that way, or me just not even engaging because she said I cut her, so I got behind her, she called me all types of B words and out my name at 7 in the morning. And I felt like I failed the test, because if that was a test, I failed it, because I just felt like my name is so important. And it's one of the things that I love to do as an educator, is have students like search up their names and search up the meaning of their names, because it's your identifier. So to have someone lower you down to a female dog multiple times, it was just kind of like, I'm not going to be physical, but I'm going to be aggressive in my language, because how dare you? And I had to realize in that moment, which could have went super south, don't get me wrong, it could have went really terrible, but I had to realize that I had to release control. Like, I had to let go of my sense of having control over the situation. And I had to just put my hands up with it, because when you're face to face with someone and you're in disagreement, things are really heated, and you have all these emotions and things that you want to get off your chest, especially if you feel disrespected in the situation. But to place harm on somebody or to get to that level, it takes a lot of emotion, and it takes a lot of energy to drive you to the point of wanting to be physical with someone. And I just learned that if it ever gets to that point, then I'd rather back all the way down because I know the value of my life, and maybe that person doesn't know the value of their life, but we should be operating in love. We should be operating from our heart chakra. And a lot of us aren't right now. Like, I had to realize with everything that's going on in this crazy world, it's gonna be okay. Sometimes we don't have control over our finances, and maybe the bills are piling up, but you have to believe, not even believe because that's a filler word. You have to know that at the end of the day, it will be okay. Even if you have to release your grip. Even if you have to lose your sense of control. You have to know that it will be okay for your sake. For the sake of your family. You have to put your trust in that everything will work itself out no matter what steps you make. If someone is at your job and they're giving you a hard time, you can only do so much. But if you keep operating from a place of love, it will work out in your favor. And I just had to get this off my chest because there have been a lot of just things that I feel like are happening in my life to where I wanted to give up. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I felt like, could I do this? Am I qualified to have a voice? And I am. And having that sense of wanting to keep going was fulfilling. It is fulfilling for me, having a sense of wanting to continue my passion and purpose. And I can't control what that journey is going to look like. I just have to keep going. I have to be consistent and disciplined. Those are like my key words right now. I don't know when they will change, but consistency and discipline have shown me true results. Strengthening my faith has shown me true results. All right? Losing my grip of control has shown me results. I cannot control every situation. And I learned that this month. All right? The good month of June has taught me, you thought you had control, let me show you something. Let me show you who's really in charge. Okay? Because we don't have the control that we think we do. And if you're trying to control people, then you have to fix that. Right now, I can't tell you how to fix that because control and manipulation, it has so many different variations and forms, and it looks so different for other people, but you have to be able to fix that. Because having control over others and trying to control them into ways that will make you look better, it's not always beneficial. Yes, we have to play the game of life, but be very strategic in how you play it. Because you never know, the people that you're trying to control or talking down to or are aggressive with, you never know how they might resurface in your life. Whether it be a few days from now, a year from now, maybe 5 or 10, you never know how life will come full circle and say, what's up? Remember this situation where you thought you had all the control? Well, now you don't have as much control. What are you going to do? Especially in relationships. Relationships too. It's a give and take. You can only control someone so much to where you either push them away completely, or it's just like their perception of you has changed so much that you're wondering why it's like you guys are hitting ahead in the relationship, and it's just because you won't loosen your grip. You're trying to oversee and micromanage, and it's not working. You can't control anything that happens with somebody else. You have to let that person go through their life and make those decisions and make the decisions that they want to make. You can't control what they do. And the same goes for you. You can only control so much. You can only control yourself so much. So be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Sometimes when I'm sad, I hug myself. If I look around and there's no one, if I don't see my children immediately, or I don't see my husband or a family member or my mom or whatever, I look at myself and I look at the flesh that I'm in and I hug myself, literally. And there might be times where I even cry because it's just kind of like you have to release and you have to let go of so many things. And let the universe and let the Most High guide you to where you are supposed to be and guide you back into your purpose. All right? So I'm going to just leave you guys with that. That was the lesson or the message or whatever you want to call it. That was what was on my heart. And I know it had been some time, but life has been showing me so much. And I'm trying to learn and I'm trying to, I don't even want to say trying. That's another filler word. I am being present. I am focusing. I am observing. I am giving myself grace. And another thing, I am atoning for the mistakes that I made in the past. I am forgiving myself for the things that I have done previously and no longer allowing those things to define who I am today. I no longer can control that narrative of what I've done beforehand, but what I can control is how I show up every day and what decisions I choose to make, even if they're difficult ones. That's all I can do. Like this whole podcast, you might hear my children in the background. I can't control that, but it makes me feel good knowing that there is life around. If I open my window, I will hear crickets, all right? And there's a lot of crickets chirping around. It's their mating call. That's how the men, get the women, which is what's been happening through the end of time. But we're going to get it together, okay? We're not going to try to control people, control others, control life. In some instances, you want to have control, all right, especially if it's your finances. You want to get it together. But even if your finances are not okay, and even if you're negative whatever, all right, know that it will eventually get okay. Granted, you start making the right decisions and you let go of the limitations you place on yourself. Know that eventually, if you keep working hard and being consistent and having discipline, it'll work itself out. All right. So with that being said, stay tuned for more episodes. All right. And just remember, when life gives you thorns, search for roses.